my channel. So today I'm going to be making buckwheat bread, gluten-free, really healthy, a little bit different to making the usual gluten-free breads with gluten-free flours, because we're going to be using buckwheat and almond instead, which makes it a beautiful, delicious, nutty flavour. I love this bread and I just wanted to share it with you guys. And you know what, I'm not gluten-free, but I really enjoy having healthier bread rather than just, you know, the usual, obviously white or brown wheat bread. And this one is a really good example of that. So yeah, let me show you how it's done. So the first thing I'm going to do is find the recipe on my screen. What I've done is I've saved it to my weekly planner. I don't know if you're using your weekly planner on Cookie our recipe portal, but if you're not, it is a fantastic way of organising your week, getting the ingredients ready, and then it takes, you know, the thinking out of it. You know, what am I going to cook? What am I going to make this week? No, it's all, you sit down, you organise your weekly planner, you buy the ingredients using our shopping list and shopping feature, and off you go, you're ready. So here we go. If I press the three dots at the top, I'll find my week. And in my week, I've saved my buckwheat bread. Here we go. There we are. So it says buckwheat, almond and seed bread. Okay, so lots of protein in there, which is also very good. So you get the fibre from the buckwheat, but you also get the protein from the almonds and the seeds. All right, so let's press start cooking. There we are. So it says 100 grams of buckwheat grains. Now, I don't have buckwheat grains today. I've actually got buckwheat flour already done. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know, it's really good to improvise and swap ingredients if I can't always get hold of buckwheat grains. So I always keep buckwheat flour ready to go, and that's what I'm going to use today, okay? So I'm going to pop that in. I'm going to weigh 100 grams of buckwheat. Okay, in we go. Okay, so that's 100 grams of buckwheat flour. It's telling me to pop the lid on, which I'm not going to do because the next process would have been to grind down those buckwheat grains, which I don't need to do. So I'm just going to press next and bypass. Press next again until we get to the end of the milling and grinding process. Okay, so now it's asking me to add 120 grams of almonds. So these are blanched almonds, so that's going straight in to our bowl. It's fantastic having scales inbuilt in our Thermomixes, because it just, well, apart from the fact that you don't need to have scales, it's just mess free when you're cooking and baking, because things are weighed straight into your bowl. You don't need to have scales, you don't need to have, you know, get another bowl dirty to do the weighing. It just goes straight in and you have a tidy, clean kitchen. What's not to love? Okay, so now we need 120 grams of pumpkin seeds, which I have here. I haven't pre-weighed out. Sometimes when we do classes, we pre-weigh our ingredients, but I just want you to see how quick and easy it is to bake with a Thermomix, with our inbuilt scales, and just not having to decant things in bowls or pre-weigh them. We're weighing as we go. Next, okay, so now we're going to put the lid on. Okay, this is where I'm not as prepared as I normally should be. So here our lid and measuring cup go on. We press next. Okay, so this is now going to grind down the last ingredients that we put in with the buckwheat flour for 40 seconds. Okay, so I'll come back to you. Okay, so that's just ground down the almonds and the pumpkin seeds and mixed it all together with the buckwheat flour that we ground earlier on. So let's have a look and see what we've got inside. There we go. And that just took 40 seconds. Okay, let's carry on adding the rest of the ingredients. So now we need 60 grams of sunflower seeds, which I have here. So let's make sure I get 60 grams, a little bit more. There we go, perfect. Let's press next. Okay, so now we need linseed. So I don't have any linseeds today, so I've chosen to add hemp seeds instead. Now hemp seeds are wonderful, they're full of protein, they're delicious, they're just really good for you. So they also have a lot of fibre, which is really what linseeds have. So they're kind of similar to a certain degree. But what I love is that these also have some really, really good protein and fibre in it. So let's add our hemp seeds. This is when you're following a recipe, you can mix and match the ingredients a little bit. Certainly if you have a bit of knowledge of what ingredients are. But I know that hemp seed is a very good alternative for linseeds. But there's no problem. You can substitute, or if you didn't have any linseeds, you could just add a little more sunflower seeds instead. It doesn't really matter. I always have a look in my pantry, and if I'm missing one or two ingredients, I know I can still go ahead with the recipe by either substituting them or just adding a bit extra of what I do have, okay? But don't let that put you off. So now we need chia seeds, which I have here. So that's my chia seeds, that's going in. Again, fibre, protein, you name it. Chia seeds are just full of the good stuff. And this is why I like making breads like this, because, you know, when you have white bread, we all know that white flour is super refined and it just doesn't give you nutritionally anything really, does it? It's kind of nutritionally empty. Whereas this kind of bread is going to give you so much protein, so much fibre, and it's delicious. So well worth making these healthier breads, should we say. Chia seeds. Okay, let's keep going. So now we have a psyllium husk. Now psyllium husk is a fibre more than anything. It's really good for keeping your gut health in check. It's also really good, of course, to helping us keep those movements in our tummy regular and on time. But it's also going to help bind this bread together as well. So it has kind of a double function. So we're going to put our psyllium husk, sorry, not chia seeds, psyllium husk. So we need 30 grams. So I had some cups ready to weigh, but I think I can weigh it straight into the bowl. There we go. So that's 30 grams. So that's about 2 tablespoons. Let's press next. So now we need some thyme. I haven't got any fresh thyme, but I have got some dried ones. So I'm going to add some dried thyme. Again, if you don't have fresh herbs, have dry herbs. They still give so much flavour to your food, I promise you. So this is going to go in now. There we go. It said 1 teaspoon. I've just kind of added ball-eyed it a little bit. You know, you don't need to be precise with something like that. Little bit of sea salt again. There we go. Said our sea salt's going in. Let's press next. And now our water. Let me grab some water. So scales have come up automatically. Always check that your scales are 0. Sometimes if you take the lid off, they can be minus, or if you've just pressed next before you took the lid off. So always check that they're back to 0. I just get used to my eyesight going down to the scales. Then if they're not 0, remember to press 10. So that's 30 grams of water, sorry, 300 grams of water, not 30. So 300 grams of water going in. There we go. A little bit more. Okay, I've gone on a tiny fraction, but that's fine. I'm sure it'll be okay. And now it wants me to add 60 more grams of pumpkin seeds. Now, the first lot of pumpkin seeds that we added, we turned into flour. These are going to stay whole. Okay, so a few more pumpkin seeds. There we go. That's the whole pack. Press next. And now we've got the measuring cup on. Press next. Okay, 15 seconds. Turn the speed selector to speed 3, and that's going to mix our wet and our dry ingredients together. Wonderful. Let's have a look inside. I always like to look inside when we make bread, because if the mixture's too dry, you probably want to add a little bit more water. I think this mixture's perfect actually, so that's good. I'm just going to scrape the sides a little bit, make sure that everything is in the centre. Let's pop it back on and see what it tells us to do. Scrape the sides, of course. I may have done this once or twice before. Okay, and then we're going to pop the lid on again, and we're going to mix for another 15 seconds. Now, while this is mixing, I want to show you where I'm going to be baking this bread, okay? Meet Kim. Kim is one of our Buckwheat rock stars, okay? So she's from the Rockstar collection. See, got a lovely lid here. And this is what Kim looks like inside. It's made of a very special stoneware, if you haven't heard about our rock stars before. And what's really lovely about our rock stars is that they become non-stick. The more you use them, the darker they go inside. They're completely non-stick. You don't have to add any oils. You don't have to add any parchment paper or silicone, making it very eco-friendly. And when we bake bread with the lid on, it creates almost like a baker's oven inside, which means that the steam stays inside. It makes the outside really crispy and it makes the inside of the bread really fluffy. So it's a no-brainer to use something like a Dutch oven or like our beautiful Kim, for example. Okay, so this is asking me to grease a loaf tin. I don't have to grease Kim because she's non-stick already, which I love. Let's press next, and now we need to transfer into our tin. So here we go. Just going to pop. Little tip when you hold your bowl, we tend to grab our bowl from up here, don't we? When you're pouring out, can you make sure you grab the bowl from the bottom, because that's going to stop your wrist being in a very funny angle and potentially getting a painful wrist at some point, which happened to me in the very early years of having a Thermomix, because I wasn't really aware. So I used to go like this. Of course, your shoulder and your wrist is at a very funny angle. Whereas if you hold at the bottom, look at that, your shoulder's down and it's a much more comfortable position. Okay, so I'm going to finish putting all the bread in there, and then this is going to go into the oven. Let's check to see, even out the top with the back of an oiled spoon. Leave it to rest for 1 hour. So that's going to rest for 1 hour. It's not rising as such because of course we haven't put any yeast in there. It's not your regular bread flour, but all the things that we put in there, like the chia seeds, that's all going to, it's going to expand in there, and it's going to make the bread pliable and spongy inside when we cook it and crispy on the outside. So we have to trust the process. So let it sit. I put the lid on and I let it sit there for an hour, and then it's going to go into the oven. If we keep pressing this, it says preheat the oven to 180 degrees. Bake the loaf for 50 minutes or until the top is brown and you can skewer it in the inside. So I'll pop it on in the oven for 50 minutes. I'll put my timer on and then I'll come back and have a look, skewer it and see if it's ready. All right, see you in a bit.